Welcome to the Superhuman Blueprint Podcast.
Welcome back to the Superhuman Blueprint Podcast, where we cut through the noise to bring you the most effective science-backed strategies to look great, feel great, and live long. I am Drew Griesel from Primal Wellness Coaching, and today we are going to dive deep into a supplement that's been around for decades, yet still seems to be surrounded by myths and confusion. And we are talking about creatine. You've probably heard that creatine builds muscle, but that is just scratching the surface. What if I told you creatine might also help your brain, reduce symptoms of depression, and even play a role in preventing Alzheimer's disease? And here's a hot take. If you're not taking creatine right now, you might be leaving both gains and brain function on the table. So let's take a moment and unpack what creatine really is, what it does, who it's for, and whether it should be part of your daily wellness stack. So what is creatine? This is basically a naturally occurring compound which is found in your body, mostly in your muscles, but also in your brain and other tissue. It helps produce adenosine triphosphate, or ATP, which is the energy currency your cells run on. You get creatine in small amounts from the food that you eat, like red meat and fish, but it's not nearly enough to fully saturate your muscles unless you eat a lot of meat every day. And that's where supplementation comes in. So you might be asking, well, if creatine is found mostly in meat, what happens to vegetarians and vegans who don't supplement? The answer is they tend to have lower creatine stores, and studies show that they may experience even greater cognitive and physical benefits from supplementation than meat eaters. Your body also produces some creatine naturally in the liver, the kidneys, the pancreas, but again, it's not always enough for optimal performance or brain function, which is, again, why even for folks that have optimal organ function producing creatine and eat a lot of meat and consume creatine, supplementing with creatine can still be beneficial. There are different types of creatine, so let's talk about that for a second, because I'm basically going to simplify it for you. So there are a few types of creatine that are on the market. You can find most of these in your local supplement store. So first of all, there's creatine monohydrate. This is the gold standard. This is the most studied, the most effective, and the most affordable. Extremely effective, extremely affordable. Usually you can get a tub of 30 servings, so 30 days worth of creatine for about $15. There's creatine HCl, which is supposedly more soluble, but doesn't seem to offer any proven advantage in muscle or strength gain. And then there's something called buffered creatine, or creatine ethyl ester, which is a liquid creatine. This is marketed with kind of fancy claims, but there isn't a whole lot of research that shows that this particular type of creatine outperforms your basic creatine monohydrate. So bottom line is just stick with creatine monohydrate because it is affordable, it is easy to access, it is most widely studied, it's safe, it's cost effective. So creatine monohydrate is the way to go. If your supplement company is pushing a fancy, overpriced form of creatine, they might just be selling you hype, not actual results. What about dosage? So there's kind of the standard dose, which you'll see on just about every single tub of creatine monohydrate, which is 5 grams per day. Usually they give you a little scooper, it's 5 grams. You do your scoop, you're good to go. For some people, when they're starting, they actually choose to do a loading phase of 20 grams per day, which they split into 4 doses. Do not take 20 grams all at the same time. You'll probably crap your pants. They do this for 5 to 7 days to saturate the muscles even faster. But honestly, this isn't really necessary. But for the long term, for maintenance, you just stick with your 3 to 5 grams per day. Usually this is enough to maintain muscle saturation of creatine. And there are a lot of people that are, I don't know if scared is the right word, but have concerns or maybe misconceptions about creatine, and particularly creatine loading, that 20 grams per day for that week or so. So why is this? It's been proven safe over many decades of use. So, I think it's just time to let that outdated fear go. With creatine in particular, so we talked about physical and mental health benefits, right? So for physical performance benefits, creatine is actually one of the most studied sports supplements in the world. Here's what it can do. First of all, strength and power. There's a strength and power meta-analysis that shows creatine supplementation can increase strength and power by 5 to 15% across a wide range of activities. Also for explosive performance, so for your plyometrics, your HIIT, things of that nature, Olympic lifting, any short burst explosive activity can benefit from creatine because it boosts phosphocreatine stores, which help to rapidly regenerate ATP, that energy currency for your cells. Also, generally speaking, creatine tends to improve gym performance, leading to more reps, more load, which then leads to, yes, more muscle. That's where people think that creatine builds muscle. It's not that creatine builds muscle. It's that creatine helps you to get more out of your workout. If you get more out of your workout, then you can build more muscle because you put in more reps and lifted more weight. So that's kind of how creatine works. It doesn't actually build muscle, but it helps your muscles to sustain greater performance. Also, creatine helps with better recovery. Creatine can reduce muscle damage and inflammation, which then helps you to recover more efficiently. There was a 2013 study by Antonio and Ciccone, which found that taking creatine immediately after training resulted in better gains in muscle mass and strength compared to taking it before training. So why does post-workout creatine work better? The kind of underlying factor there is that your muscles are more insulin sensitive and primed to absorb nutrients after a workout. So taking creatine with food, especially with a meal that contains both protein and carbohydrates, can increase your muscle creatine uptake due to insulin's role in driving nutrients into muscle cells. Also, combining creatine with your carbs and protein has shown to enhance muscle retention of creatine significantly more than taking it alone. So if you're just drinking a bit of creatine with some water, that's great, that's helpful, but if you have it with a little bit of protein and carbohydrates, you actually might get more out of that creatine. So aside from whether or not to take it before or after your workout, generally after is better, but otherwise, when should you take it? So yes, on training days, take it after your workout. Ideally with your meal, with carbs and protein. On your rest days, anytime, doesn't matter. So take it any time of day. Just, again, it's better if you take it with some food, with your protein, with your carbs. The most important thing is to be consistent. If you're still taking your creatine before workouts, you might be missing out on better gains. And here is where creatine really shines. And most people miss this. Your brain uses huge amounts of energy, and creatine actually helps with cognitive function and mental fatigue. There was a 2003 study from University of Sydney which found that creatine improved working memory and intelligence scores in healthy young adults under stress. How cool is that? In 2012, there was a double-blind study that found women with major depression who added creatine to an SSRI responded twice as fast to treatment and had better overall outcomes. So creatine is proven to actually have brain benefits. Also, creatine may support serotonin balance and energy production in the brain, which is key in managing depression. So if we know creatine can boost mood and brain energy, why isn't every mental health professional recommending it? Well, I guess you answer that question on your own. The answer may be that they just aren't aware of the data, or they're hesitant to recommend supplements over pharmaceuticals. I don't know. You decide. But there is emerging research which is looking at creatine's role in slowing down or even preventing diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. So that could be pretty profound. Pretty much anyone that tells me now that someone in their life has kind of early onset Alzheimer's, I'm just a guy, but I'm saying look into creatine, right? I'm not saying go put them on creatine, but just look into it, folks. If you have concerns about Alzheimer's in your life, just take creatine. It's not, okay, yeah, talk to your doctor. I'm not a doctor, so, don't put anything in your body just because I told you to. So go ask if it's okay, but really you should take your creatine. There's actually been some studies, but in some Alzheimer's mouse models, creatine actually improved mitochondrial efficiency. It reduced oxidative stress and it boosted cognition. So the mice actually had all of these benefits from the creatine. Creatine may also reduce beta amyloid toxicity. It might improve mitochondrial health. It can support synaptic function. So here's a question. Could creatine delay the onset of Alzheimer's. So we've shown these studies that are pointing at yes, but bottom line is more human studies are needed. The mechanisms look promising, and given the safety and affordability of creatine, it could be a very smart preventative tool, but can't say with certainty. But it's good for so many things, so why not just take it, right? Imagine, even if you're in good health, why wait for your body or your brain to decline before you start supporting it, right? Be proactive, support it now. So what are the risks or side effects? Not really much to say here. Creatine is pretty safe for most people. There are long-term studies up to 5 years that show no harmful effects on kidneys or liver function in healthy individuals. There is a common myth that creatine can hurt your kidneys. This is false unless you already have kidney disease. Some people say it causes dehydration, cramps. There is no evidence that supports this either. So, it's not supported by evidence, so you make your own decision. Some people think it's a steroid because of its connection to building muscle. This is absolutely not true. Creatine is not a hormone. What are the possible side effects? Well, some people experience some mild bloating or water retention, especially during that loading phase. If you're doing that 20 grams per day, if that bothers you, just skip the loading and stick with that 5 grams per day. So, how long are we going to keep letting outdated gym myths keep people from benefiting from this incredibly legitimate supplement? So, should you take creatine? Well, I would say yes, but you should at the very least consider it, right? If you lift weights, if you sprint, you play sports, if you want to build or maintain muscle, if you're looking to support your cognitive performance, you're dealing with stress, you're dealing with burnout or depression, if you want a long-term tool for brain aging or to prevent the risk of Alzheimer's, potentially, go with creatine. It's safe, it's cheap, it's effective, and it could be a foundational part of your wellness protocol. So I'm just going to leave you with that, folks. Creatine is one of the most researched, most effective, and most misunderstood supplements out there. It is not just for bodybuilders. It is for moms and dads and athletes and executives and anyone who wants to look, feel, and function better mentally and physically. So go out there, check it out. The creatine I use is from a company called Kion. I'm a big fan. I think I have an affiliate partnership with them. Not actually sure. If I do, I'll put it in the show notes. Maybe I have a discount I can offer. I should probably know that. I should probably have looked that up. But Kion is the one that I use, but really any creatine monohydrate, you can walk into GNC or any supplement store and just get a creatine monohydrate, and it's good. If you want the one I get, I'll put it in the show notes at the superhumanblueprintpodcast.com. Folks, I hope that you have a good success story to share. If you do, drop it in social, primal.wellness.coaching, and let me know. Do you take creatine? Has it done anything for you? Has it done nothing? Did it make you go poop? What did it do? All right. Take it easy.